Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We are your award-winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast. We're back. Like, we've never really been away, to be honest with you. I mean, as we approach our, 188th season, Jace, was it, of Last Word on Spurs when it's all started? Jason's with us.
I'm watching Ange on Sky Sports at the moment, not listening to you. Jesus Christ.
He didn't expect an early call back this soon, but Jason McGovern is back, as is the wonderful, the ever-lesson Richard Cracknell is back on our screens. He's an annual leave for a month. Look at that smile. Cracks, you're refreshed, you're ready.
Nearly a tan, Rick. Nearly a tan. I actually made it to the beach for a couple of days, and Jason mentioned Ange there. Dare I say, I mean, I'm really not one to speak on such matters, to be honest, but I think Ange has put a bit of timber on over the summer. He must have found a couple of good souvlaki restaurants in Germany when he was doing his punditry work, and so let's hope that he knocks a bit of weight off, and he's. I don't think that tracksuit top was doing him any good. We're supposed to be talking about football now, and I'm fashionista for fat men, isn't it? Like, I'll get you that sponsorship with Giacomo, Ricky, for the show. Don't you worry.
Or lose it on this rate.
Or lose it. They do a marvellous range for the broader gentlemen. Giacomo, buy all your broader clothes from there. Come on, sponsor the show. You know you want to. And by the way, Rick, evening everybody, by the way, and welcome back for season 177 of Tottenham's ongoing soap opera. What was with all them seagulls today at the game? Man alive, that was they must have thought Dembele was going to turn up with a bag of chips. I reckon that's what it was. There was hundreds
we're not going on Dembele now. Now Jason's on. We got no chance of getting off this subject.
It was like Hitchcock's The Birds, wasn't it? It was mad. I didn't know if it was Brighton playing, Hearts, Tottenham. It was just nuts. Anyway, carry on. Evening, everyone.
Thank you so much. Like, he's never been away. Richard Cracknell there taking over. He will be taking over from us very, very soon. He will. Look, make up our panel tonight. He's here for his, again, inaugural 178 season, as Cracker puts it there. It is the one, the only. Dance on Ice's very own, our very own. The wonderful Ricky J. Noor returns. Ricks, thank you so much, my man. Back, locked in. Are we ready, Ricks, to buckle up again?
Come on, mate. We are back. It's beautiful, isn't it? It's beautiful when the season starts again, man. You know what I mean? The hopes are high. You know, there's so much potential. There's so much opportunity. You know, everyone starts from zero. You can build our hopes. You can see the positives. You can see the green shoots, all of those things. And we go into the season with our fingers crossed again. Do you know what I mean?
And Ricky, are you coming on for the Welcome Gary Megson show in November then? I take it, yeah?
It's early.
It's early, mate. It's early. But no, we're in a good place, and it's great that the boys are back. It's great to see them running out on the grass, in our beautiful top, and having a great win. So, and it's great to be back on with you, gentlemen.
Bless you, my man.
So all the listeners and the watchers out there, it's great to be back on Last Word on Spurs, and after a preseason win as well. Let's jump into it with this beautiful panel.
Amen. Thank you so much, my man. Ricks, you're going to hate me. I'm already started on the negative. We haven't even started the bloody show yet. Is there any chance, Ricks, we can adjust or either lose the AirPods or adjust them? We sound like you're a little bit underwater, my man. Is that okay? What we are going to do, we're going to open up and we're going to go to Jason because just to give you a theme of what... we are definitely off and running.
Oh, we're definitely back.
Welcome back to Last Word on Spurs. We are off and running.
Back.
When I spoke to Jason earlier in the week, I said about our pre-season schedule. I said to Jason, don't worry, every pre-season game, be under an hour. Crackers is going to host most of them as Lee is, so you haven't got to worry too much. I'm not going to even be here. We've done 10 minutes so far just on the beforehand of what goes on the green room, so you have to forgive me there. And we will bring Jason in to open this show. Jace, look, you weren't meant to be on tonight, but you are here and we bless you for that and we can't thank you enough. This man is trying to compete with multiple sports in the background there, as you will familiarise yourself during this show. It was a great start to pre-season for Spurs, a 5-1 win over Hearts. We just about saw it between us. I think the most pleasing aspect for many will be the element of the academy players that really showed the future is bright. From what you saw of it, Jace, any real main takeaways?
Well, the first thing to say is what you've just said, what you saw of it, because the Tottenham's coverage tonight, where it was constantly showing us broadcasting soon or whatever, when we were about 20 minutes into the game, was It took Tottenham a long time to cotton on to all the replies on social media. It's like, where's the game? So I think I got on about 28 minutes. So what happened in the first 28, I couldn't tell you. But from that moment on, a couple of nice touches from Kulu in the first half and a really well worked goal. But then you're right, the kids came on in the second half. Second half started with an Emerson Royal cock up within 20 seconds, and suddenly it's 1-1. But the other big take, it wasn't just Lancashire's finish was Kane-esque. Mikey Moore showed some nice touches, and Jed Spence looked the player that he left Forest. But like we always say, pre-season, Hearts aren't a great level team, and it's not at the highest Hearts level because it's their pre-season as well. So. But you can only do what you got to do on the day, and there was a lot of positives to take from that second half for sure. And like I say, Jed Spence, 2 assists and a goal, was what you want him to do. And we've been talking in the group all week about we need to buy a backup right back because of what happens to Porro. But if somebody like that can grab the opportunity and suddenly knuckle down and think, look, I'm wasting my career here, going out on loan and turning up late for training and things like that. Get your head sorted, get your professional career back on track, and there's a player in there. So let's hope he builds on that over the course of the next 8 weeks before that transfer window comes down.
Yeah, absolutely like to say, Jason. Nice little intro there. Rick's come over to you. Look, I think an impressive second half display that saw Ange Postecoglou's side really brush aside Hearts. And I think as we've touched upon, some really promising displays throughout the team tonight, especially some of the youth players. I know many suggesting Jed Spence, there could be a second coming there. Any real main takeaways for you, Rick, at this such early stage of pre-season? I know many will say, don't get carried away with the result. You was here, Rick, 12 months ago when we opened up on Ange's first ever game for Spurs, which is, of course, that defeat to West Ham, a 3-2 defeat. We took a lot of glimpses that day with the way Spurs were playing. Here we are 12 months on. What did you make of the opening of Spurs' pre-season for you? We are going to try and unmute Rick. Let's bring Rick in.
Sorry, Governor.
It's what you can tell. Everybody's got ring rust. We are back just about here on Last Word on Spurs. Over to you, my man.
No. For me, what was really nice to see is that with our kind of quote-unquote second side, that there was pace, bravery, and hunger in all of those that came on. And that was really nice to see. They all wanted to kind of grab their moment. They wanted to kind of, put the pressure on to kind of grab that shirt and to show to us, the fans, and the management that they're capable of doing what you're asking them to do against a physical side, against Hearts. They are a physical side. It's not like they're Real Madrid, but they were a physical side. They were at home as well, so they had something to play for themselves. They're in pre-season too. But the second, that youth side, it looked amazing. I don't even know whether to call them the youth side, like the potentials I've almost got to call them, because everybody kind of put in a really good shift. They put in a good account of themselves. The weakest player in the second half was probably Werner for a lot of the time, and then he ends up getting an assist or nearly 2 assists. You know what I mean? So that, for me, the highlights that I took away was like Bergvall. He is great. He looks, brave enough, and he's kind of, takes that risk to dribble forward. He likes a first time pass. He's got a picture in his head. That's what he looked like in the minutes that we saw him. It looked like he already knew once he received the ball where everybody was in his head. And at that age, and in his first couple of minutes in front of us lot, to see that, I think is very promising. Mikey Moore, like Jay said, great couple of touches. I mean, I don't want to say it, but I'm gonna say it. Do we have our own Yamal, in the squad right now?
I love how we're not going too early. We're 9 minutes into the new season, Last Word on Spurs.
You got to, mate. You got to.
This guy to Lamau already. Go on, Rick.
Go
on, Rick. Go on, Rick.
These are the green shoots, bruv. We've got. I don't know. I'm not going to jinx him anymore. But no, there was a really nice pace and power about it. I thought Tyrese Hall, we had a turn of pace there. Lancashire again. It was just promising to see. And, even Phillips at the back, done a good, solid job. He looked good and popped up with a goal at the end as well. So it looked like the second half side in particular kind of are really embracing Ange's message and his philosophy and the way that he wants to play. And they look like they went for it today, and they put a good account in, and that's all you want in pre-season. Get the minutes under your belt and put a good account in.
Can I just say, Rick, that question there, what was he doing playing Gray at centre-back? We've got no centre-backs to play. You know, Romero's away, Van der Ven's away, Ben Davies presumably is still getting over the injury that he missed under last season with. Phillips came on in the second half. At this stage, it's just important to get 45 minutes into the legs. Don't get too carried away that Archie Gray and Oliver Skipp were our two centre-halves, and there's no way Jamie Donnelly's going to be playing at left-back. But, you got to take 22 or, you wanted 22 players at least to have a bit of game time, and we've only got one real centre-back up there. So Emerson Royal played at centre-back as well. But, of course Archie Gray's not going to play at centre-back.
Well, I mean, listen, with the way Spurs got injuries last season, Jason, I'd say you wouldn't rule anything out, but you're right.
Well,
I mean, I think
in terms
of positions, you're right. Listen, I think generally he primarily does see himself as a midfielder, central that is. But again, he played a number of games for Leeds last season at right back and shone. So look, a player that's versatile, which we know Ange loves.
Even he looked good though, didn't he? He looked good.
Yeah.
The bit. He did.
Look, yeah, I mean, look, I think we're all very similar. We don't want to go too hard because it is pre-season. I think, again, we've been there before where we've been burnt by looking at players and thinking they're world beaters. But I think, Cracks, that on the whole, and for me and you last season, I know you definitely wanted that break towards the end of it, and I don't blame you. I think, to come back and see a performance like that from a lot of youngsters and someone like Jed Spence, for example, that has been really a player that we all expected probably to leave this summer and may still do, again, only pre-season. Maybe a lot of hope for the future there, Cracks, fair to say. Is that how you saw it for you?
Yeah, it's, I mean, this thing with Gray playing him at centre-back, then why not? And he didn't look terribly out of place. Okay, Hearts, pre-season friendly, but he did look composed and assured there and looked comfortable playing there. He didn't look out of position, even though he was. So, given injuries that we could have and maybe potential cup runs and the draining aspect of Europe that's going to be coming this year, I mean, that's just for us on the pod, starting pods at 1 o'clock in the morning and all
don't
sorts
tell him yet, Cracks. Don't tell him yet. Ricky looks terrified.
Tottenham versus Krakatoa and the lost city of Atlantis, and like 1 a.m. we're trying to discuss that, and it's
I've got Jason in the back academy. The cricket's on, the golf's on, the sumo wrestling's on. What am I going to deal with here?
Do you know what? If you can play a Clark somewhere like that or a right back on a Thursday night in early rounds. And try and give your other players a rest because we may have a potentially big game on a Sunday. That's no bad thing, is it? But I mean, overall this evening, Rick, you looked at those young players. Now, like we said, you can't get too excited too early. It is literally a training session today. But what you can take from it was how assured they looked. They looked comfortable. They looked assured. They looked composed and knew what they were doing and knew what was expected of them. No one seemed phased. Yeah, Bergvall, there was a little bit of the Modric about him. You see it's that a similar style. He's not the next Modric, by the way. I am not saying that.
It's better than that, isn't he? He's got to be better than that.
You could see it, but then you could say, like with Lancashire, you saw that Kane-esque finish. So maybe that's something that you build on. Spence, again, like Jay said, maybe he's knuckled down. Maybe he's got his head round the fact that this is a very short career and you've got to rinse and squeeze every last second out of it. So, but there again, he might be showcasing himself for a move. You just don't know at this stage. But he looked, talking of showcasing themselves for a move, Emerson Royal done marvellously with that this evening.
Tell you what.
I mean, Chairman Levy was like banging his head against his desk, thinking they're going to knock £3 million off of him for that now, aren't they?
Let's hope Milan, let's hope Dortmund weren't watching that. Let's hope they really weren't watching that.
That was "Can I go, please?" wasn't it? With that lackadaisical pass. I don't wish to be part of this anymore. I need to go to Italy to be a TikToker that happens to play football. Thank you. It was But I like their composure as youngsters. I mean, when some of the youngsters that we've seen coming through in the past don't look that assured, even in these pre-seasons, but they just look confident. They look smart, and they look like they want to be there and assured. So let's see. Let's see. Rick, you're going to have to read that last message, I'm afraid. Is that one of those ones that you got to read backwards? Is that like the 1% question, isn't it? With on a Saturday night, our 1% club.
Loving us all very much, enjoying the chat, and why not? John, thank you so much. Always.
Yes, vos pais en taxi.
Quick in the background.
It says, hurry up, the golf's on. That's what it says. Jesus Christ, can't you read?
You know what, can I just say, I'm so glad I'm having a break away from this, and Crackers and Lee are going to take over with Rick's in the background. I'm not going to worry at all. We'll be absolutely fine. God forbid help us with the Europa League campaign on our side, Jason.
I was just going to say, with Jed Spence, lots of the comments coming along the screen and that, all about Jed Spence. All I would say about Jed Spence, I didn't see him do anything tonight I didn't think he was capable of. The question with Jed Spence is, can he become a professional footballer rather than a YouTuber and, somebody that turns up from training 10 minutes, 15 minutes late, and everywhere he goes out on loan, he comes back not with any questions about his ability, but about his questioning his professionalism. So, like I say, he caught the eye tonight with his performance, but it's not his performances that he needs to catch the eye with. It's, if it's Ange says to him today, right, training starts at 9:30 tomorrow, it's being there for 9:30, not 5 to 11. And it's things like that Jed Spence has to do.
Yeah, I think that's, again, a really, really fair point. And I think that many of us with Jed, when he, at the time of signing for Spurs, were really excited about the promise that he had. And I think, like you said there, Jace, we had no doubt there's ability in the lad. It was just trying to find a way of getting that out of him. So I think you made a great point there. Look, we don't know if that tonight was
power as well, didn't he?
Yeah,
he's quick, he's powerful.
Yeah.
He has got a bit of composure when he's got the ball. There's, I loved his goal, the way he attacked the space, got in there. Loads of positives from Jed Spence tonight. But as we say, the positives Jed Spence has to show are not on the pitch, but they're off the pitch.
No, I think that's very fair. And again, look, it's such an early stage of pre-season with the first game in. I think the key indicator will be if he's involved up until Bayern Munich, for example, in the final couple, that will give you an indication as to whether Ange sees him as part of the prominent first-team plans for next season. But again, look, young lad at the same time. I think many would love to see a redemption of him because we know the ability he's got, which is why Spurs tried so hard to sign him. So look,
conversely to that though, Rick, Ange may well undeservedly drop him and see how he reacts to it as well, because that would be quite telling about his attitude and where he is. Because if he's okay, well then I'm going to show you in training this week, but I didn't deserve to be dropped, and comes back and fights even harder, then you've got something. So we may not see him in the Bayern game. He may undeservedly drop him just to give him a little bit of a test. That's not unheard of. So there's exactly as Mark Siggers is saying on the screen here, not turning up at 9 a.m. but 8 a.m. He's getting in early. It's doing that extra bits, showing those attitudes, isn't it? So but you do get that feeling that Ange isn't going to suffer any of that nonsense. They'll just go, and I've got plenty of time for that, and I don't care if that's Son or any of the new boys. If you're showing that sort of attitude, not that Son would, because he's just not that type, but nobody should be above the law, if you like, with attitude and commitment.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely fair. Look, what we are going to do, we've got to squeeze it in. We are going to go for our first break of the show for our listeners and audio. And we've got over 3,000 of you watching us live here. It's the first game of pre-season, and you beautiful people are joining us here. We're joined by returning Dance and Ice's very own, our very own Ricky J. Norwood is back on the screens for pre-season, as is Jason McGovern. Unexpected for him, but he returns. He'll be heavily throughout pre-season. Look how excited he is. Everyone keeps asking me, why is Jason not coming on the transfer shows? For those who have followed us for about 7-8 years, you are not getting Jason on another transfer show, apart from maybe deadline day when Jason will officially close the bloody window for you.
I'll tell you what, Rick, Mr. Transfer Guru yesterday tweeted out which you picked up and everyone circulates,
Oh, here we go.
that Spurs are interested in Eze. Mr. Romano, tell me something I don't fucking know already, and I knew that 6 months ago. Oh, Jesus Christ, man. Shut that Biffa bin lid and shut him up, for God's sake. Oh.
You can see why Jason will be heavily dominated during the later stages of our
And
transfer window.
One more thing about the transfer window. Can you stop showing me players in Spurs shirts who haven't signed in for bloody Spurs?
I've not done that. We've not done that on Arsenal Spurs yet. We've not done that yet.
Dear. You see pictures of him in last year's shirt that they'll never wear because it's last year's bloody shirt.
We stick by your
sign.
Jace, we stick by your principles, mate. You will only see him in the Spurs kit once they've signed. We promise you.
Jace, should we put you down as a maybe for the next transfer show?
Oh dear, oh dear.
Oh, listen, all I said was the word transfers. I've set him off. I'm a jaw by the brilliant Richard Cracknell. We've done a month off. Look how excited he is to be back. So fresh and delighted. Right, we're going to go right into the team we can do. Ricks, I am going to turn to you if you don't mind. Look, I think many were, again, an element of maybe surprise, excitement about what Team Spurs would have maybe fielded for this one. Ange Postecoglou named the side to start against Hearts and Macedonian, if I've got that correctly in terms of their full name. Of course, it was a return for Ange to Scotland for the first time since his 2-year tenure at Celtic, which brought 5 trophies to the Glasgow club. His lineup blended experience with a youth element to it. There'll be, obviously, as we're going to mention, 2 different lineups here. One for the first half, one for the second half in retrospect. Archie Gray made his first start for Spurs, and surprisingly in central defence, but as Jace touched upon in the early part of the show, that was due to a lack of central defenders. We have Mickey van der Ven, Christian Romero, Radu Dragusin having just finished their international commitments. They'll be back very, very soon. Another young midfielder in was Oliver Skipp, taking his place alongside him. Elsewhere, it was a fairly strong lineup to begin with. Pedro Porro, James Maddison, Dejan Kulusevski, Heung-min Son and Brennan Johnson all starting with Jamie Donnelly filling at left back, as he did, of course, for Spurs at the weekend. And Manor Solomon playing his first official match of 2024 and his first game since that controversial Premier League win against Liverpool back in September. That's how far you've got to go back to remember, of course, Manor Solomon's last involvement for Spurs as a player. Bergvall on the bench alongside Timo Werner with plenty of youngsters. That team red to start with: Austin Porro, Gray, Skipp, Donnelly, Basuma, Maddison, Kulusevski, Johnson, Son, Solomon. And we'll come on to, of course, the second half lineup. But Ricks, when the lineup came up, it's so early stages. Was there any real thoughts about it? Was it just a case of seeing the players out there?
I mean, when I first saw it, I was a little bit confused by it. I didn't know where Gray, Skipp, and I was like looking for the defenders, and I just saw Pedro, and I was like, I didn't understand it until, I saw the lineup and the way it shaped up. But again, a bit like Jay said earlier, for me, when I saw that, I was like, okay, cool. Well, they're doing something just to kind of get those 45 minutes in their legs. They're going to play with certain principles, that they're going to play in those positions. For instance, Archie Gray. So if he's playing at centre back, we're going to look and kind of concentrate on his defensive abilities and his timing and his spacing and his awareness a little bit further back. But fundamentally, he's getting 45 minutes in his legs. It was good to see Mano back. His first time he's had a run out in a long time, as you said there. A little bit. What was a little bit concerning for me is that I didn't see Richarlison. He's been out for a while. We've seen some training videos of him back, but I don't know whether you've heard, Rick, anything about that, or whether, I don't know if he's got a reoccurrence or whether he's still in rehab or anything like that. But when I saw him back in training, I thought he would kind of be in and around it. Maybe he's just taking a little bit longer to recover. Those are the thoughts that I had when the first team sheet came out. But first and foremost, I was just excited to see the boy a team sheet again. You know what I mean? Just to see the team sheet again, I was excited.
And all the replies saying, "Why isn't this player playing? Why isn't that player playing?"
But it kind of made me smile, bro. It kind of gave me the butterflies, and it made me smile because I was like, "Ooh, we're nearly back." It feels like we're back, but we're nearly back. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it was just exciting to see the boys out there. It was great that Archie started. Kulu got a couple of nice touches in there. It was nice to see Maddison out there running. And he got kicked up in the air a few times. So at first it was just me kind of just being excited that the boys were back, really.
Yep. No, I think that's fair. Look, I think, again, when that first game rolls around to the start of whether it's pre-season or the first game of the season, it's a chance to see the Spurs shirt, the new one for the first time, players that, of course, we haven't yet seen as well. So there's always, I think, that air of excitement about what's going to come, what's Burvale going to look like, what's Gray going to look like, what are those players looking like that are going to be coming back from respective loans? Are we going to get surprises, like we said, with Jed Spence? Is it going to be sustained? And again, I think that's why I think pre-season is quite a relaxing period to actually watch games, Jace. So I know you say it a lot, Jace, for you, that I know you're not a massive fan. Obviously, with Arsenal Spurs, we have to become accustomed to do these post-match shows. But I know when you were doing it regular on a week-to-week basis, I know for you that was quite difficult in terms of being able to then fully focus from watching the games, then doing the pod. So sometimes, Jason, pre-season, it's a bit more relaxed, right? You haven't got to be so intently watching because it's more just a case of how a player's getting on individually rather than fully focusing on the result. Is that fair?
Of course it is. And at this stage, when you've got so many players aren't back, you know, like I say, you're looking at Archie Gray and Oliver Skip at centre-half thinking, that ain't happening. That's not even happening in the Carabao Cup second round against Darlington. You know, it's just not. So you will never see that centre-back pairing in a competitive game ever. So
now he's changing formation mid-game, this bloke. What's he doing? Go on, Chase.
It's just nice to see some of those young kids. And to me, particularly the first part of pre-season, are any of the young players good enough that you think, do you know what, we won't block the pathway to the team. We won't send you on a silly loan. We'll keep you around, and you know who's going to come off the bench in a Europa League game, and you know, is Mikey Moore a genuine first team player for those Europa League group games and things like that. So it's that part. Burvale, I was really excited to see. Physically, he looked quite ready for first team football as well, didn't he? He certainly wasn't pushed off the ball. That was the first thing I kept thinking. How will he adapt to football? Will he be physically strong enough? So that was Dane Scarlett's filled out like a boxer, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Dane Scarlett from a year ago, the kid that they all said looks a bit lightweight against Shakhtar.
Just need to get him to have a word with Brian Hill, didn't we, Jace?
He looks absolutely huge, Dane Scarlett. So you know, just it's more looking at the young kids who's going to take that opportunity to because, you know, without a doubt, with the youngsters this year, you know, when you're playing that Europa League game, whatever people think about signing big players and things, you have to have 4 club homegrown players. So 4 of those people can't go out on loan. 4 of them we've got to keep within the club. If Oliver Skip is sold, then 4 of them have got to be the youth team kids. So is it Scarlett? Is it Donnelly? Is it Mikey Moore? Is it, all right, we didn't see Dorrington tonight, but is it Dorrington? Is it Tyrese Hall? You know, which of those 4, because you can't loan them all out and have none in the European squad. 4 have to stay around. So to me, the key thing to pre-season is which of those 4 am I looking at thinking, yep, you're in that Europa League squad. And if you're in the Europa League squad, then you'll be coming on in the Premier League, maybe at first in the 85th minute, but are any of you good enough to come on in the 65th minute when it's a 0-0 game? So that's what I'm looking for pre-season.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fair. Look, Cracks, to bring you in to kind of start the element of the way the game did plan out. It was celebrating, I've got to say, firstly, 150 years of Hearts, and there's a minute's applause for Dave Mackay before kick-off, a legend loved by both clubs and a real poignant tribute. I'll be honest with you, in the first kind of 20, 25 minutes, other than one back pass that put Austin into trouble, there wasn't really much going on. I mean, Archie Gray looking pretty accomplished so far in that centre-back role. He made a few early tackles, one a header. Jamie Donnelly also doing fairly well at left back. We saw James Maddison curling a shot wide from inside the Hearts box. There was terrific close range reaction save from Brandon Austin, I've got to say. There was one moment where it was a back pass nervily sent out for a corner, but he did make a great reaction save 20 minutes in, as I discussed there, and dealt with it pretty well in that first half. But I think, Cracks, you know, we all winced a little bit seeing James Maddison go down early on because, you know, bearing in mind the way in which last season was really stop-start for the player, you know, I think with James this season, we're all going to hope that he's going to come into the season really raring to go and fresh. I see Jason putting a hand up there very quickly, Jason.
Yeah, Rick, just jumping in. I didn't even see that tribute to Dave Mackay.
I mean, it's a minute's applause. Yeah.
So that's really nice they did that because to many people, Crackers would probably go along with me here. Dave Mackay is probably seen as the most influential player we've ever had at our football club.
Yep,
and some.
You know, lots of the young people won't even know who he is. But the Spurs double side and that great 60 side was built on Dave Mackay's character and leadership. And so, like I said, because of the problems on Spurs play tonight, I didn't even know they did that. So that's nice to hear.
Amen. Cracks, I need to ask you about James Maddison because, look, he took some big hits in the first half. He looked dangerous overall. He produced some lovely football in the assist for Johnson's opener. How important is it, Cracks, this pre-season? He does get now some decent game time under his belt. He would have had, of course, the disappointment of the Euros and obviously not going into the tournament. Is it really important for you that we see him have a strong pre-season going into the start of obviously this upcoming campaign?
Yeah, very much so. And, not going would have been a huge disappointment to him personally. But for us now as Spurs fans taking our international hats off, whatever flavour they are, him not going and now for Spurs, you would hope that he's actually been able to rest, get those ankles right. I mean, we've heard some stories of where he's been caught, and last season he was playing with ankles which were just like balloons because of the way. A lot of this is because of the way he plays, Rick. He invites those late challenges where he just flicks a ball away so the ball doesn't get taken, but the ankle does. And it's something that he has suffered from previous to even coming to us, and last season suffered with it as well. So to see that in the first half of a pre-season friendly, you start to wince and you're like, oh no, not again, please. So I don't know. I mean, he's just had so many whacks on the ankle. There's only so many times anybody can get anything hit if it's a sort of suspect area. Kane the same. Kane always seemed to struggle with ankle problems, maybe just due to the way he plays. I don't know. Look, let's hope that he's got this right now and he's given them a good rest. He may have to somehow try to adapt the way he plays so that he doesn't seem to get that. I don't know how you do that. That's what very highly paid coaches at the club are there for and earning good coin for. Maybe, just maybe, they can give him something different. He can try ways, styles of play. It's going to be very difficult because it's something probably just in his DNA, but it might just protect him from a lot of those whacks that he gets on the ankles. But it might also be something that we just have to manage as a squad where, we may well lose him here and now for a week or two because of these things. So, but look, the club's got a hugely paid and vast medical team, a hugely vast scout training team and coaches. So let's see. But I do worry about his ankles throughout a season because they just get walloped so much. They really do. Why don't we just get him a nice big old pair of proper Adidas football boots, or like some proper old like Adidas Stanley Matthews or something, like, a real big old padded leather boot that he can wear that might just protect him, because you see some of these boots in the room next door. I have got one of Robbie Keane's match worn boots. Right, I'll get it fetched in a minute. Honestly, it's like fine bone china, and this was from a good few years ago. It was a boot he wore when he played against Wolves, and I happened to catch it when he threw it into the crowd. Honestly, you could shine a torch through it. There are King Odo on the screen. He needs a pair of those Lonsdales I used to go on about. A proper, them old Lonsdale slip-on taekwondo boots. Get him a pair of them. Get him some of them.
I was trying to say, I was waiting for Cracker's number one line to say, I've got his Adidas boots. They're older than James Maddison are. They're in my loft. Where is it, Cracks? I was waiting for it. Where's that line coming from?
It's because Cracks was wearing Lonsdales that he knocked shit out of everyone to get the boot in the crowd. That's what happened.
Now, Rick, see, I've got you two sponsorships this evening already. Lonsdale and Giacomo. What a fine couple of pair of brands to be associated with. I'll get you all the blue chip companies. They'll be piling in. Lonsdale, Giacomo. We've got them all here.
Come on. I want to come over to you, Rick. So I want to ask you about Archie Gray. And again, what was quite ironic, actually, before that was a great Spurs move with Son's shot on the run that Craig Gordon actually did superbly to push it over the crossbar. But Archie Gray's tackle, one of them was so strong, he actually punctured the ball in that first half. And look, overall, look, a couple of decent interceptions from him. Also a big miss in front of goal, which really should have doubled Spurs' lead. But, playing as a centre-back on his official debut, he made a good early header to set the tone, a decent couple of tackles. There was one back pass that you could say maybe put Austin under a little bit of pressure, but overall looked fairly accomplished. And I think, again, he looks like a real talent and a player that I think wherever you play him, you'll get maximum effort, which I know for some is not the be-all and end-all. But as we've talked about his versatility, you look at the fact centre-back, right-back, central midfielder in a campaign where we have got Dynamo cheeky girls to come and we've got the FA Cup and the League Cup and whatever's going to come on this show. We need versatility, Ricks. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, we need versatility. But what I think is more encouraging is that he's up for this fight. He's not afraid of rotation. He's not afraid when he goes into a new position. He adapts and changes his attributes to suit that occasion right now. And he's only 18. We're going on the reputation and the reports of last season on what he done at Leeds in the centre of midfield and at right back. And what we saw today was his defensive capabilities in a centre back and his kind of commanding nature, almost. I want to say leadership, but he's almost too young to be showing leadership, if you know what I mean. It was along that line that when I saw Archie play, that he looked totally comfortable. There was not a nervous step really. It didn't throw him off. The most important thing was that he got those 45 minutes in his legs, but he didn't do anything to kind of worry me about him taking a number 6 role or being in midfield in a number 8 role even. So we will get everything from Archie. He seemed like that type of player. From all of the reports that I've seen from the lead scouts and all of those videos that have been on YouTube, he sounds like that type of player. He comes from that type of family. But what I would say about all of these young ones is it's super exciting, right? It's super exciting. And even, I joked about, Yamal for playing for Spain. That boy has just turned 17 as well. And, the world's going to be thrown at these boys. And we're going to want them to play like robots at times. But we do have to remember the human element of certain things. We do have to remember that there is going to be dips and there is going to be a learning curve. And there are going to be things that these boys are going to have to tackle and kind of deal with that are around him, that surround him. There's going to be new friends that are going to latch onto these players when they're in a club or out, I don't know, out and about at Alton Towers. Do you know what I mean? It's going to happen. And I think that's what's kind of, we've got to give these boys, enough room to not pile on too much pressure. Yeah. Obviously, kind of praise them when they're doing great and criticize them when they're doing wrong, but not kind of, they're the worst thing since sliced bread one week, and then they're the best thing since sliced bread the next week. And I think that's also something that flows onto the Jed Spence thing. It's like, from all the reports that we've heard with Jed Spence have been from managers that he's gone on loan to, and from even Neil Warnock when he first started out, when we first started noticing him. And we hear all of these reports and we assume from what the stories that we are being told that it is an attitude problem and it is a timekeeping problem. But I would love to know, and I don't think we will know for years, but I would love to know his versions of events. I would love to know if it is a result of circumstance or surroundings, and whether going away to Italy and kind of being away from all of those things has helped him focus, has helped him kind of, kind of just key in on his game and his career and where he's going. And this is the hope that I have. This is the hope that we have as Spurs fans, that he does kind of, now go and grasp this opportunity that he has. The reason that, like you said, Ricks, that we brought him in. But I would love to know his side of things, and whether it was a case in his mind of circumstance and scenario and, being in the wrong place at the wrong time and certain things like that. And whether going away, he helps kind of, that helped him mature and it helped him realize certain things about what he wants in his career. And fingers crossed he's come back and he's going to show that, because he was the most impressive player out there. Yep. I'm just saying it as a human side. Nice. I'm one that gets caught up in it. I'm one that runs away with it. But we've seen this before. We've seen us as a fan base criticize Porro, Vicario. We've seen, when Sarr came in, why we're bringing Sarr in, and then he goes off to loan. What's the point of this? What's the point of that? There's been times where we've done it. And then, especially last season as an example, we saw Vicario and we're like, oh, okay, wow. We had concerns, but wow, we can see a definite player there. Same with Van der Ven. Same with your doggy. Same with Porro then. Do you know what I mean? We were building. But every time there was a dip, it's like, they're the worst things to slice bread. We're going to have to give these young ones space and time for them to learn, for them to trip and for them to make mistakes. And then a bit like Jed, hopefully, fingers crossed, realize what mistakes they made so they don't make that mistake again and they can continue this trajectory that they're on. I just wanted to chuck that out there, boys.
No, absolutely. And it's a great point there, Rick. Thank you so much for that. I think, just on Jed, if I can, because there has been some comments from Ange, actually post-match on Jed, where he said Jed did well. He had tough couple of years. I will get the words out eventually. You can tell it's the first game back of the season. He's training with us, and I think of all the players, when they are here, I treat them as Tottenham players, and then suddenly something changes. He was good tonight, took his goals well, he contributed well, and got an assist. So it does feel like on the back of Ange's words there, from what we can only tell, it's fair game, and we'll see how he gets on these coming weeks. But I think as Jay said it earlier, it's no point going too overblow at the moment. It's the first game of pre-season. We need to see how things pan out. If the player is involved, as I said, at the end of pre-season with the Bayern Munich couple of games to come, that will give you an indication in terms of whether he may still have a future at Spurs. And look, even beyond that, there's still the rest of the winter to play out. So I think to go and make assertions that he's got a future here would probably be too early to say, but we'll keep an eye on him, that is for sure. One player I do want to ask you about, Jace, is Brennan Johnson, a player that, for some reason, seemed to take a lot of flack last season. I actually made this point on a show I did the previous evening, actually, where I said with Brennan that his acceleration to the first team, I don't think would have ever happened any time quicker as it would have done had we not had the injuries that we suffered, of course, at Chelsea and obviously throughout the season. Because I think the plan with Brennan, and you tell me if I'm wrong here, Jace, I think he was going to be blended in. I don't think he was ever expected to play anywhere near the amount of games he was going to play. And for a player that did end up playing the amount of games he played, I think he still ended on a fairly decent goals to assist ratio. So look, in terms of the goal itself in this game, again, it's a friendly. Again, it's against an opposition where you feel Spurs should be winning the game. But he took his goal really well. It was Maddison passing it with the outside of his foot to Kulusevski, then backheeled it back in to Maddison. His powerful low cross was smashed in by Johnson. And to be fair, it's really what's become accustomed as a classic Postecoglou goal. And a lovely one at that, Jace. I mean, again, Brennan Johnson, it's only pre-season, but do you feel this is a big season for him to come this second season?
I saw enough from him last year to not have problems. I saw enough of him at Forest not to have problems. I was delighted when we bought him in. His goals and assists last year were equal or better than all the people that we're constantly linked with and demanding that we pay 60, 70, 80 millions for. And yet he did all that last year. I think he had a positive impact on quite a few games last year. Yeah, he didn't play brilliantly every single week, but he still contributed to wins. And okay, so he didn't score against Arsenal or Man United, but you know what? You play 38 league games. You only play those two twice. You don't play Arsenal 25 times a season. So goals against Brighton are 3 points. Goals against Brentford are 3 points. Goals against Arsenal are 3 points. You know what I mean? It's just as valuable when you do it against Luton at the end of the season. If you finish where you need to do by 1 point and Brennan Johnson scores a goal against Luton, then that's as valuable as anyone that scores against Arsenal, isn't it? So it hasn't got to be in the big games at this stage of his career. Let the boy develop. But that first goal was a really nice worked goal. Maddison's change of pace, the ball in, and then not just his ball into Kulusevski, but then he then attacks the space, Kulusevski's ball. Maddison, to me, when you were talking about him earlier, I guarantee you Maddison is ready for the start of the season for so many reasons. He's got left out the England squad, so he's biting on that. There's now a new England manager to impress, so he's biting on that. And where's the first game of the season? Perfect. Leicester City away, Sky Sports Monday Night Live football. What a perfect game for James Maddison to have first game of the season. James Maddison's ready for the start of the season, no doubt about it in my mind. And you'll see a really good Maddison You know, the first international break comes after 4 games.
Yeah.
Maddison's got 4 games on fire. I guarantee you he has. But that was a really nice work. Kulu's part in the goal. Kulu played a lot more. If people didn't see it tonight or they had problems on Spurs play or whatever.
Busy display from Kulu. I thought busy display.
Yeah,
He was involved.
There was a difference tonight. Kulu kind of played as in the 10 role as well.
Yep.
Played a lot more. Brennan Johnson was wide right in the first half, not Kulu. Kulu played more like he did in that last game at Sheffield United. Much more centrally. We saw him play a lovely little ball for Son when he put Son through 1-on-1, and the ball round the corner for Maddison. I know it's Hearts, but as Clive Allen kept saying at half time, that's the type of goal that breaks through any defence when you move the ball that quickly and with such skill. So that was a really, really well worked goal, and big hopes for Brennan Johnson this year for sure.
Yeah, I've got to say, I think again, you mentioned that point on Kulusevski. There was actually a little bit of lovely skill involved for the Johnson goal, which I think is important to add, because again, Kulusevski is one of those players that I think has been mentioned with a suggestion that we've been sat on here literally in the last few weeks on Last One on Spurs. There may be a feeling that we may lose a player that maybe some of the fan base would be surprised about. Would it be a Kulusevski? Would it be a Bentancur? Would it be a Basuma? We've got some really interesting comments coming from Ange actually post-match that I want to bring on to the fact. But just to really summarise some of the players in that first half, there was great tracking from Porro to Deny Hearts, an immediate chance to equalise. Good chance for Son from a Solomon pass, but he couldn't really bring the ball under control. But there was some good movement, but really struggling with his final ball on the whole, Solomon. Of course, his first 45 minutes in a Spurs shirt since you have to go all the way back to September against Liverpool. Skip as a whole, he had one stuttering moment in the first half, but otherwise was fairly solid in, again, defence, which you could argue for Skip isn't a position where he'd be wanting to play. Basuma, other than really being out muscled for one moment in the middle of the park, that led to a breakaway. He was fairly calm and composed in the midfield. Heung-min Son looked lively, had a shot saved by Gordon, as we touched upon, but he was a constant menace to Hearts. I mean, Cracks, is there any other takeaways from you for that first half? Or again, is it just getting minutes in the legs to what we've got really being quite a busy pre-season? We're in Korea to come, as we know. We've then got Bayern Munich back at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It's not a dull pre-season, to be fair. There's quite a lot of games involved here that Spurs are going to be travelling to and from.
Yeah, no, it's minutes in legs. It's pretty much televised training and allowing people to come in and watch it, to be honest, isn't it? It's I like to see maybe trying, like we did with Gray at centre-back, and moving Brennan Johnson out wide, again, just to add to that debate. I thought it was just absolutely insane, the stick he got. He's literally only just turned 23. So, he's 22 and a bit, isn't he? Like, he's 22 and 370 days or something. It's like, he is so young. Like, people say, he is 23 now. So he's 3-4 years off of his peak. And I thought he looked really comfortable. And, we played him a little bit differently this evening, Kulu a little bit differently. So this is what it's all about. Taking players, maybe putting a little bit more pressure than a training session on them by giving them a game. Yeah, thank you, Ishan, in the comments. I'm quite aware he is 23, but you get where I'm coming from. He's only just 23, so he's a youngster. But I like to see the players maybe move about, play slightly different positions, because it gives you half a clue of whether they can fill in during the season. Then if you do need to move about, of course there's an argument that there's enough money sloshing about in the club to actually buy ready-made players, but I do personally also like to see, I'm pretty sure I'm leaning on an open door with Jace here, but there is pathways open for these young players to come through. And if you're good enough, you will come through and you will take that position for somebody else to come and put the heat on you to take it off of you. That's how it works at a football club. You should have that. But I do like to see kids come through and make it. There's nothing finer at a club. So you have to get a balance. Of course, you bring in some of those players, but you get a balance in a team, and you dip them in and you dip them out, and you give them certain games and you build them until they come in and then actually take it. So yeah, mainly minutes on legs, but good to see a little bit of asking them to do something different to what they normally do.
Totally agree. Lovely words actually from Archie Gray there post game, which you will catch in the audio version of our podcast. For those that listen back on audio, of course, we include all of the interviews from players after the games. Archie says, I don't really care where I play. I'm 18 years old. I need to learn the game anywhere the manager puts me. I'm just happy to learn the game and have great teammates around me to teach me. Nice words there. Ilmatic sharing them. And again, look, if we've got everybody that same attitude, then we've got a really good group. And let's hope that is the case. What we are going to do, we are going to go for our next break of the show for our listeners and audio. We've got over 4,000 of you plus watching us live on X, on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube. Again, thank you so much for all your incredible support for Last Word on Spurs. I'm joined by, he is Dance on Ice's very own, he's our very own Ricky J. Norwood, returns to our screens, back on the pre-season trail. He is ready for a big season to come. He doesn't know it yet. He will be ready. Jason McGovern is back as well. He's battling multiple sports throughout the summer. Euros comes to an end, the Copa America comes to an end, but the cricket's back on and Wimbledon's just finished. A man that is ever an ongoing sport in that house, Jason, in that household.
Test match tomorrow, golf starts tomorrow. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. And you make me watch QPR on Saturday afternoon when there's a golf and a test match on. Oh.
And I promised him it's an hour, it's a Saturday. I promised him.
Welcome to ESPN +1, where we bring you the live underwater soot juggling from Azerbaijan. Thank you to our one viewer, Jason McGovern, tuning in this evening. That's you, Jason, isn't it? Honestly, two flies climbing the wall live from Bulgaria. Stay tuned.
The underwater preliminary round in Azerbaijan starts before that. I mean, you're way down the competition. I've been in it weeks before that.
I'll get reminders in the Olympics are starting soon as well. I forgot that one. I'll be even losing to that. I can't believe it.
It's bizarre. I won't watch any of the Olympics.
Yeah, what about Love Island, Jason? Catching the final next week?
What do you reckon? Who do you reckon's going to win?
We'll He'd rather do a transfer show, wouldn't he?
I'll go for a beer with Fabrizio Romano rather than watch Love Island.
There we go. We've found his weakness. That's the way we get him on. We subject him to an hour of Love Island, or we put him on with Fabrizio for an hour. We're also joined by returning Richard Cracknell, an annual leave of a month away, and he's back on our screens. Blessed us of his presence. Guys, second half did mean a second half change in terms of the lineup, which was brought to you, of course, by Ange Postecoglou Spurs. We actually saw during the half time that both Jed Spence and Ashley Phillips were being ready to come on and both going through drills. It was a complete change of team. We had in the side now Whiteman, Spence, Phillips, Emerson, Robson, Hall, Bergvall, Devine, Moore, Lancashire and Werner. And such is the nature of Spurs and half-time and the nature of Spurs being back in our lives. Within a minute of the restart, Hearts go and score. Like we've never really been away, is it? Not never been away. And as we discussed during the show, I know you can't really call an agent, but Emerson at the fault or the heart of Hearts' equaliser by giving away the ball in the build-up. Now, Jason moaned at the start of the show that he couldn't get on Spurs play. I think we all wish we didn't have Spurs play for that moment if you were watching that back, because that was a moment that you didn't really want to put yourself through. But bearing in mind, if you was on X, you were being subjected to multiple reposts showing you that moment again in 4K of Emerson gifting the equaliser to Hearts, and now the negotiation being even harder to his price when before this show, Jason won't want to hear this because it's transfer news, there was a gap around €5 million in the valuation. I dread to think, Cracks, what that valuation is now and how far apart.
I bet that mistake doesn't make his TikTok show reel, does it? I bet he don't put that one in with some god-awful German techno playing behind as it shows his highlights. He's not putting that big old custard pie in, is he? Oh, man alive. Yeah, that 5 million gap widening.
You can see Levy phoning AC Milan going, what was the offer? What was the offer? And all he's got is like...
Be like trading places, wouldn't it? When all of a sudden, from that mistake, they get back in there and sell. We're ruined, Mortimer. Look at that terrible pass. We're ruined.
You know who I felt sorry for? Poor Alfie Whiteman's waited a year for another chance.
For a start.
Comes on at half-time. He's barely done the wrist flap on his gloves up and he's picking the ball out of the net. He's only had one side. He's just seen Austin for 45 minutes. He thinks, finally I'm on. I put the gloves bag in the net and I'm picking the bloody ball out already. Poor bloke. No chance.
Honestly, I don't know what to say. I just don't know what to say. Look, he was rescued a couple of minutes later. Will Lancashire putting Spurs back in the lead. Great moment for the young striker. It's set up by actually Jed Spence, who seized on a Hearts pass, drove on, played in the 19-year-old to fire home inside the left-hand post. And I think, Cracks, you made this point. It might have been Jason, forgive me. Kane-esque in terms of the finish and the confidence.
Yeah, he took it very well. Rick, by the way, Lancashire is a county in England.
John Wenham right now in the background is shaking his head saying, I'm never coming here again, Rick.
Don't turn into my father. John. You'll be calling him Stephen Bodgwins next. So he's Lancashire. He's either Sarah Lancashire, the fine actress, or Lancashire, the county. Lancashire.
Can I make you laugh, though, Cracks? I spent 2 bloody weeks getting to that to say Desiree Adue or Desiree Adu, and now he's not on Spurs' bloody radar anymore. I thought, what's all that effort going into knowing these players' names? And after all that, he's not even going to come to us. Why do I bother?
We need to sign the Hearts player, Jan Dander. What a name. That is absolutely incredible, isn't it? I mean, you imagine Steve
Tanganga to buy Jan Dander.
Tanganga. You had the old Crystal Palace goalkeeper, Steve Mandander. If he was married to an Amanda and she left him for Jan Dander, she would be Amanda Mandander, Jan Dander. Come on.
That would be the greatest episode of Jerry Springer ever. Could you imagine bringing them two out?
Amanda Mandander, Yandander, Blue Moon. It is like the start of a song, isn't it? Like the start of an old 50s doo-wop song. It's a magnificent name, Yandander. But no, Lancashire, very, very good. Again, as I said at the start of the show, really composed, looked assured, looked confident. You know, for a young lad, they all look like they belong now. And that's all you can hope for at this moment. And you just hope as the challenges become sterner and bigger, that they step up and go with those. Each time they step up to something a little bit more, can they step up and keep that composure and grow and grow and grow? That's all you can hope for. But I mean, with regards to that Spurs Play app as well, it always makes me laugh that I live on a tiny little island off the coast of Africa, and my stream was 4K brilliance all the way through.
That's why you was quiet in the WhatsApp group and everyone was kicking off in there.
Correct. I've just sat there watching it beautifully, like 2,000 miles away, and everybody else like literally round the corner. It is like it was just scrabbling away and just getting some sort of like coverage in medium wave. It just always fascinates me. So, but Lancashire, another huge tick tonight. So well done, young man. Well done.
Yeah,
mine wasn't in medium wave, mate. Mine was in the microwave, my coverage.
Can I ask you, Jason, stick with you? Look, it's his first appearance. He marks it with a goal and he points to the Spurs badge after he scores. I think, again, there will be an urge, a little bit of caution. It's a young player who's done ever so well last season in the academy, I must just say, in terms of, again, goals to assist ratio. I think you're looking at, in terms of general overall, and people can forgive me if they're wrong here, I think you're looking at 25 plus goal and assist contributions last season in the academy setup. There will be that argument, Jace, that when Spurs are buying some of these youngsters coming through, the Bergvaus, the Archie Grays, are we denying a pathway to some of these other prospects coming through? Or is it just a case that these guys have got to show even harder in these preseason games like this, that they deserve to be more involved? What's your debate on that kind of argument?
I think if you look honestly, the pathway, as much as we want them to grab pre-season opportunities, because it's pre-season, that will always be used against it. So if Will Lancashire scores in every single game pre-season, say he scores 2 in every single game pre-season, scores 2 tonight, scores 2 at QPR, goes on the tour, plays against Bayern Munich, scores 2 up against Kane, plays Bayern Munich at White Hart Lane, I still call it White Hart Lane, scores 2 that day.
It's always White Hart Lane, Jace. Always White Hart Lane, mate.
If he does all of that, and then we're linked with a £60 million striker, what do fans want? They will still want the £60 million striker. So, you know, to a degree, you can be as impressive as you want pre-season, but it won't change anything. We had the thing in the group the other day, didn't we? Where we said, you've got Son, you've got Werner on loan. Whether we like Werner on loan, the fact is, he's there. So there you go. You've got Solomon, you've got Brennan Johnson, you've got Kulusevski, you've got Maddison. If we go and buy Eze, there's 7 for a few roles. And then people are saying, if we get Eze, I still want to go and get Neto. So there's another 60 million on Neto. Where does that leave Mikey Moore? How does Mikey Moore ever get a game? Because, you know, if you picked Son, Kulusevski, Richarlison, Maddison for a Premier League game, then the Europa League game is going to be Johnson, and it's going to be Bergval's come in as well. So, you know, where on earth is a pathway for a Mikey Moore to get game time minutes? You know, so you have got yes, there's rotation in the squad. You've got to have options in the squad, but there's enough options there where you don't keep all of them and go and buy Neto at 60 million and go and buy Eze at 60 million and then say to Mikey Moore, I tell you what, we'll give you 2 minutes at the end of the Carabao Cup when we play Doncaster Rovers. They need more than that.
Yeah.
So, you know, the pathway must be there for those players. It has to be, because this is you know, we've seen this team win underage groups now for the last 2 years.
Yep.
We all hear what Mikey Moore's pathway is blocked when they're talking about his contracts at the moment. What's he going to do? So, you know, you must keep that pathway where, for me, I want to see Mikey Moore get in, you know, at least 30, 35 minutes of Europa League games on a regular basis. And like I say, not coming on when it's 4-0. I want to see him coming on in a game when it's 0-0 and the game's there. Or maybe you're 1-0 up and you've got to hold a game, or it's 1-0 down and you've got to turn a game. But don't just bring these kids on with 2 minutes to go when it's 3-0 and the game's gone. So, you know, for me, I want that pathway for those really. Donnelly's another really talented youngster. And him and Mikey Moore, and like I say, when you've got to keep 4 club homegrowns around that Europa League squad, I want those involved, but I want them genuinely involved, not playing 2 minutes, in which case you cannot have Solomon, Richarlison, Johnson, Kulusevski, Son, Maddison, Bergval, Eze, Neto, Uncle Tom Cobley and all, because they will never get those minutes. So you're going to have to live and learn. You've got
I need to bring you in
on the chin.
Yeah, I got some great points there from James. I got to say, Rick, I want to bring you in as well to that discussion. You know, again, I can see you there nodding away. I know you were biting to come in that conversation. Where do you stand, Rick, in terms of pathways? I mean, look, tonight has been a night really that showcased the youth, right? I think we all could see that and say that. You know, again, we've seen Jed Spence for the time he's been given show us what he could possibly do. Again, and we know it's early days. Actually, Phillips has got on the score sheet again, a young player. Again, will he go out on loan? Will he get minutes here? We're not sure. We've discussed, of course, Archie Gray, that, again, as a youngster, a lot of money's been spent there, the same as Bergval, a lot of money's been spent. We then got that argument with Mikey Moore, who's going to need games. Jamie Donnelly's going to need games. What we don't want to be in a situation is, I think Jason has really illustrated there, that we're in a situation where we could lose these such great young prospects by not giving them the football that they need to get. How do you feel about that, Rick, for you, and where do you stand on the argument?
For me, I totally agree with what Jason's saying about pathways. There has to be pathways, but I think we have to be a bit widescreen when we think about the pathway. I think we have to utilize the loan system if and when they're not going to get the minutes that Jason's talking about. You know, I think we kind of hung on to Tanganga, Carl Walker-Peters, and a couple of others, and we ruined them from how exciting they were from when they turned up in the team. Just them hanging about, it drained them, and you know what I mean, and they went where they went, and now they're not at the club. And I think that's why the loans at the right time are important. Also, I would talk about Pep Guardiola for a minute, and I know we're not Man City, but the way that Pep integrates youth into that side, and I'll use Foden as an example. There was many a times that he was bled into that side, getting 5 minutes, getting 10 minutes, getting 15 minutes, getting a half, you know. And there was times he had dynamite games and might have scored 2 goals, but what Pep would do the next game is take him out. Pep and Man City have never stopped buying or improving their first team for the sake of a youngster. And it's almost as if when we go back to like Poch and Dele turn up, you know, you got to remember that there was Mason, Bentaleb, and Bentaleb done dynamite the year before, and Dele came in and was just wrecking everybody in midfield in training. And then Poch gave him those types of opportunities, and little bit by little bit he took those opportunities, and we saw a great Dele Alli at those points. I think that it's the same with these youngsters here. Make those choices on whether you're going to hold somebody. And the thing is, where I think we have an advantage with Mikey Moore is his age, the fact that he is 16. So you can bleed him in a little bit by little bit. You can kind of, have him around the squad as well. Because like going on loan right now might not be beneficial for him. Being around the squad and learning the systems and developing, a senior mentality within Tottenham squad, that might be the best thing for him right now. But the Tottenham, what they have to do, instead of just holding on for holding on's sake, is make the right choices for the right players at the right time. So Lancashire, does he need a loan in the Championship? Do you know what I mean? Do you go and get him men's football? And that's a way to come back into the club and find your pathway back into the club. We've seen with Carl Walker when he went out on loan and then he hit Aston Villa. And then we saw a fast, dynamic player that was scoring goals for Aston Villa. And we were like, hold tight a minute, he's ours. He's coming back. And the next year, he came on and then he kicked on. He built on. One of the biggest criticisms of Carl Walker's first couple of seasons was he ain't defensive. Do you know what I mean? He's very good attacking, but he ain't defensive. But little bit by little bit, because he was a young player, we developed that. And, Carl Walker became Carl Walker. And I think that's what we've got to be conscious of, especially with pathways. We can't just give them a pathway for pathway's sake. We can't just hold on to them for holding on to them's sake. They have to earn their spot, and they have to show the manager and the rest of their teammates why they deserve a squad number, as well as being trusted on the field when we call upon you. So it's an amalgamation of what Jace was saying, but also at the same time looking at someone like Pep and the way that even like Oscar Bob, I think the young Brazilian, come on and look phenomenal at times in cup games for Man City, but he didn't start the next Premier League game. He had to earn that, and it goes back to what Jace was saying earlier about someone like Jed Spence having a great game and then dropping him the next game and seeing what that mentality and what that response is. It's part of that learning and growing as a young player. So it's very important that we have pathways, of course, but they have to earn their way, and we have to use the loan system and the whole footballing system so that the right players get the right development at the right time to come back into that team and then become part of that first team.
Yeah, I totally agree on that. And just on that point, we discussed Lancashire earlier. Postecoglou said after the game that Will was really, really good. We kind of brought him in this last week in training. He looked bright in training. He's worked ever so hard. He's had a very good year last year, and it's about rewarding him for that. It's about coming in and making an impact. He did well. He took his goal well. And I think, look, again, if we're applying that kind of logic, what Ange just said there, to a lot of the youngsters, I'm going to ask Cracks in a minute about Mikey Moore, that if it is just about giving these players an opportunity and they do shine, I don't think really Ange has got a possibility of leaving these guys out if they're going to come in and score goals, because the reality is, whether people like it or not, if these players are coming in and scoring goals, that is, I think, going to focus his mind more on dealing with the players that are there rather than maybe looking and dipping into the transfer market. The key will always be is whether these players are good enough long-term and sustainable, because I think we all know this, and we've seen this as well in the past, that with youngsters, they are up and down. You are going to get fits and spurts. You are going to get 10 good games. You are going to get a dip. And we saw that in Maurizio's first season at the club. We may see that in Ange again in the second season if we are going to give a lot of the youth a chance. I've always said, got no problem at all giving youngsters a chance. But for me, it is about having the experience in and around the squad. And I think, again, it'll be really telling to see where Spurs are at come the later part of the window, to not bring Jason's frustration up about the window, how we are looking as a squad, if it is going to be heavily dominated by youth. Because I always feel, for me, you still need those experienced leaders that have been there, done it and won it. If we are going to, as we all want on this show and spoken about so many times, to get over the line and win a trophy. The one thing that always sticks with me before I come over to Cracks, Jason always says it to me, with every route to a cup final, you are going to need to beat, dare I say it, an Arsenal, a Chelsea, a Liverpool, a City, a United. It is always the case. Go and look at the last 4 or 5 years in cups. All these teams are there and going to win them. Very rarely are we at the stage now where you get a Wigan that win an FA Cup, or you get a Leicester that win an FA Cup. It's very rarely to do so. That's why, again, I think for me, so important that whilst you've got great youth coming through, you have got some experience there that have been there, done it and won it. So I'll be interested to see what Spurs do, because, again, we know Højbjerg's likely to go. that's an experienced member of the squad. You'd argue that really for the experience that he's got, I think at the same time, there's an undeniable feeling that he's just not fit for the system. And again, Bentancur's future to some degree, that feels like it's up in the air at the moment, given his summer that's obviously taken upon itself. So again, we'll see what happens there. But Cracks, I want to ask you about Mikey Moore. Look, so much hype around this young guy. We're very lucky and blessed. We know John really well, John over at Lily White Rose, that of course has seen Mikey Moore's progression through the academy. 16 years of age. He's played in by Lucas Bergvall, a great reverse ball, and the winger turns his defender inside out before slotting home. The Spurs fans are sitting there singing, Mikey Moore, he's one of our own. For a 16-year-old, that's got to be goosebump stuff, hasn't it, Cracks?
It's just, that's exactly where you want to be if you got the crowd behind you like that. But and he's done really well tonight, and he looked mature. He looked way above his age of 16. But Hearts in a pre-season friendly isn't even Darlington in the FA Cup third round. It really isn't. Let alone a Premier League game. Any team in the Premier League. It is absolute day and night step ups. So there's a lot of experience, coaches and people around the club. I think they'll look at players like Mikey Moore. Would he benefit from staying around the first team training and getting a few minutes, or would he benefit from a loan out to go and get some real meaningful minutes under his belt? I've seen it with my... Go on, Jason.
Quickly, Crackers. I think John confirmed it. Mikey Moore's the one that's difficult because I think he's too young to be loaned out.
Right.
So he has to stay around the club.
Yeah. Okay. So this is something that he needs to get his head round as a young man, that he can't yet go out on loan. But it comes down to each individual's personal circumstances and what we as a club think would benefit them, and what they also feel would benefit them. Some might be chomping at the bit to actually want to go and do meaningful minutes, and would go, okay, loan me out to a Sunderland or something so I can go and get some real minutes and really go and learn. Others you'd look and they may say, no, probably would benefit from staying around within the club and then training with the first team a bit and maybe a bit of bench. And you have to tailor make it for each individual player. But even 16, 17, 18, and even showing that kind of promise that a lot of those players they are still a million miles away from making it. A million miles away. You wouldn't think so, but even now, some of those that we're talking about this evening may not ever make it through. It really is that tough. 1%, Rick, of academy kids, when I've worked with Paul Stewart and he goes and speaks to safeguarding and speaks about expectations from a career in football, and he goes to academies all over Europe, and he says to these kids of Mikey Moore's age and just other academy kids, only 1% of you will make it as a pro at this level you're currently at. You may have to drop down. Here's the expectations. Here's the bumps in the road. So, you really have to manage these kids. But fortunately, clubs do get that right these days. There's a lot more safeguarding and welfare and just sort of looking at what they need to do with these kids as individuals to either fulfill their potential or see it go elsewhere and sort of safeguard them through that. So a lot of this will all have to be individually tailor-made, and a lot of it as well comes down to these kids and their own inner what they want. Because if you want it, you will absolutely burn and go for it. Some may just sort of fall off a little bit with that going full throttle to get a career. So let's see. It is really up in the air. You don't know which way it's going to go. But Mikey Moore, just looks a sensational talent. He really does. So we're lucky to have him here. If he fulfills that potential, then the sky's the limit for him. It really is. He looks an incredible talent.
You're not screaming out to me.
When you think we're delighted with everything we've seen from Mikey Moore so far, and the back end of last season, and in the youth team, and he's had a cracking game of Hearts tonight. And Lamine Yamal's just scoring goals in the European Championships at the same
It's crazy.
age.
Yeah, it's mental.
It's just nuts, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he plays for Barcelona. We're not talking about him having a pathway to Barcelona. He's a Barcelona player now. It's just Jesus.
It puts everything into perspective. It does. I mean, look, no player completed more dribbles in the game this evening than 16-year-old Mikey Moore. He also had a goal. He created a chance. A thoroughly impressive showing from the Spurs starlet. I mean, Ricks, we're glowing here about this young kid. Again, I have to remind myself, he's 16 years old. And when Cracks was speaking there, the one player that really was screaming out to me as Cracks was going through what he was saying was someone like John Bostock. John Bostock, if everyone remembers going back, 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago, John Bostock was the big up. Was it more than that? Forgive me, I'm aging here. I think this guy, again, you look at him, he was at the time the most hottest prospect in certainly English football that everybody wanted. And, Cracks was saying there about whether it's desire, whether it's attitude, whether it's just not working out for whatever reason, moves and players can just slip through the net when you feel they are going to be superstars. So how much of it as well, Rick, and this is what you're always, I think, great at explaining, about keeping feet on the ground, keeping grounded, keeping balanced. Again, he's had a great night tonight. He's had a great season in the academy. He's got such a huge future ahead of him. But how much about it is Rick's at the same time just being grounded, taking everything in his stride, but I'm sure he's got great people around him, because I think, again, we've all seen it in the past where we've had these youngsters that look unbelievable. But again, it's all about keeping your eyes on the prize and working so hard and focused in training.
Yeah, for Mikey Moore and for those young ones, for them, it's about not believing the hype. Let all of us lot talk about them. Let the media talk about them, whatever the case may be, but they can't believe their own hype. Sometimes, and I'm not saying Bostock was one of these people, but sometimes you can be the next ... before you've reached there, before you've even got there. And sometimes distractions around you can be flung at you left, right, and center. And we're all human. There's some of us are tempted by chocolate when we're not supposed to be eating chocolate, but if there's a chocolate biscuit on the table, once the missus goes out of the room, you might sneak it and you might have it because you fell to temptation. Do you know what I mean?
Better be a bloody Terry chocolate orange. I can't get rid of those.
But this is what I'm saying, right?
Sounds like Ricky's got a webcam in my kitchen by the sounds of things.
That's the after show, Cracks. Don't get him started. Press the red button for that one.
But you know what I'm saying? It's like, and you think about these young ones that are going to be told that they're $1 million, going to be given $1 million, and they're going to have $1 million people around them kind of feeding their ear. That's where you have to be focused. Know your people. Know the people that have always been around you. Mikey Moore and the rest of those young ones. Families are really important. And having good people and good examples in and around you. I mean, we've got Sonny, who is a class example at that club. One that is emotional and hardworking and wants to reach the levels as well. Do you know what I mean? He does all of those things. So if and when you're having a bad day, or if you're kind of thinking about something that's affected you in a bad game, in a good game, Sonny is definitely somebody who is open to chatting. You see him, he's that type of guy. He's an emotional guy, so he'd be open to chatting and sharing his experience and sharing with the young one that this is just a period of time. As long as you keep your head down and keep working hard and stay focused, then you will get to where you need to get to. This is what happens, being distracted by the lights and the glam and the glitter is really, really easy. It's really easy. It's really accessible to a lot of people right now, but they don't have the other side of it, which is like, what are these distractions? What path are they going to lead me down? Are they going to take me away from my goal? The reason that I was on this path in the first place. That's it. You got to keep your goal in your head. You got to keep, thinking about the examples that are in front of you. Someone like Jude Bellingham, who has worked. From the time that he was at Birmingham, he's gone to Dortmund. He's gone through it. He's lifted the level to the point that he's gone to Real Madrid, smashed Real Madrid, and then was like the main guy for England at the Euros. And I'm not talking about performance at the Euros before we go into that, but I'm talking about he was the main guy. He was the one that we was looking to. There was the adverts on the TV, and it was like, trust Jude. Do you know what I mean? And he's only just turned 19, 20 himself. So there are examples out there. If you stay focused, if you keep your head in the game, and you keep yourself surrounded by good people and good examples, then you can reach the levels that you're meant to reach. If you're easily distracted, if you go down kind of, and I'm not saying don't have fun either, but because you have to, that's part of life too. But if you end up going down a path that is a bit darker for you, then you could end up on the unknown, pile in the corner of the office. And
not
that's
just
why
that though, Rick. At 16, 17, 18, you have to manage players physically as well. They are still developing. There's still a bone softness with them. They are literally just turned from children. So if you start giving youngsters at 16, 17 years old too much football, you start looking at things like shin splints, because there's it's too much impact on shin bones because they've not fully grown and they've not fully formed. And so there's a hell of a lot of things that play into all this. Like in the comments, people were talking about Cess. I don't think that was an attitude problem with Cess. He seemed absolutely gutted it never worked for him. His body let him down. Not his attitude, not his mentality, not his want, just literally his body. This is yet another thing that feeds in. Mikey Moore, touching wood and turning around and touching the ground here, may have something where his knees go or his ankles go, or any of these players, any of these kids at any of these clubs. There's so many dangers and things and factors that can feed in that means it doesn't quite happen. But all you can do is look at the here and now and just see a lot of these young players and think there's promise. There is promise. The attitude's right. The ability's right. So let's hope that they all progress and come through.
Yeah, no, I totally agree on that point.
And the Cess analogy is good because Cess was actually playing first-team football at 16, dominating first-team football because, whatever people remember, Cess was tearing up the championship, completely tearing the championship up at 16, which is why we completely were right to go and pay the money for Cess. When people say, what are we buying for? We were absolutely spot on to go and buy Cess when he's tearing the championship up at 16. But it just, maybe too many games at 16 is the cause of problems. Michael Owen's the same, playing first-team football at 17. His hamstrings are gone at 27. So, it can happen that way.
Yeah, Rooney retired at like 30, didn't he? As well. Do you know what I mean? He was burnt out by 27, 28, roughly. So it can happen. It's about that. It's about being conscious of that and looking, like the boys have said there, looking after the body as well as the mind, and looking at that longevity. You can't just just because put everything on them in every single game. Yeah, because things like that will probably happen.
And then Ted Sheringham played until he was 107 years old, and you couldn't get the man out of Faces or the kebab shop next door to it. I mean, it's like this is the nuts thing with football and your physicality. And Ted will tell you that himself. Every like when he could. I mean, he trained hard and he worked hard and he was a professional. But in between then, Faces and the kebab shop, Faces and the kebab shop. That was him. And he played until he was 40 odd. And you see him playing for the legends now from time to time, and you'd still give him a game now. You'd still put him out there now. It's insane. So all these different factors just feed in to a footballer's career.
Totally agree. Just going back onto the game, we are looking to finish off on the game itself. Spurs did make a change. Vellies came on for Lancashire. And again, to be fair, I think the changes made on the night, again, was just to give everybody a feel of obviously the ball itself. As we've said, it's about really giving players minutes. Later on in that game, of course, Djed got his goal. Max Robson got down the left-hand side, played in a low ball into the box for the right, about a touch home, 4-1 to Spurs. And again, with Djed, it's hard to know, look, as we've discussed, to not go overboard. It's the first game of pre-season. We don't really know if Djed is just knuckling down because he wants to impress Ange or to put himself in the shop window. I think for many, we hope it's the first on this display. But at the same time, you know, again, it's the first game, obviously, for him this pre-season. We'll see how he gets on. Release then had to essentially come off. He was struggling with a nosebleed. So Dane Scarlett come on. We've discussed how Dane has really bulked out for the last, I don't know, couple of months, you've got to say. Get him on that Brian Hill diet. Get him those Wagyu steaks. Hey, Cracks, where they're giving him, make sure you give something to Brian Hill. If we'll see him in this pre-season, we'll have to wait and see. But a fifth goal for Spurs.
You leave my son alone. You leave my son alone.
So how many times are you going to be able to use that phrase now between now and the rest of the summer?
So where was he tonight?
I don't know, Cracks. Where was he? You tell me. Did he call you? Did you get your permission to travel?
I wouldn't let him out to play this evening. That's what it is.
They're not around because Reguilon wasn't involved. You know, we're playing Jamie Donnelly at left back. Where's Reguilon tonight?
It's very telling, though, isn't it? You know, again, Spence getting minutes, Reguilon not getting minutes. So you just wonder, you know, maybe Ange has had a change of heart because, you know, he had a fairly decent last few decent games for Genoa, Spence. So again, look, Ange just said it after the game. He's going to give him an opportunity, and until he hears otherwise, he'll treat him as a Spurs player. I think that's the great thing when Ange had come through the door 12 months ago, that when there was the likes of Ndombele coming back through the door and we had the likes of Lo Celso coming back through the door. I remember that show we did actually when those players were coming back for pre-season the first day, and everybody was making a character assassination based on how they were walking, how they were looking, what they were wearing. And Ange just said, you know what? These are Spurs plans until here otherwise. And the thing I do think with Ange is that you will get a fair crack of the whip. I mean, don't forget, he actually praised Ndombele last pre-season before he ended up realising that he wasn't right for Spurs. So look, I think the one key thing you will get is a chance, and it's about taking that opportunity. And Ashley Phillips got his opportunity late on. He got a goal. It was a fifth on the evening for Spurs. It made it 5-1. And just really, again, just the second half itself, to be honest with you, again, for those that were struggling watching Spurs play from an outset, Alfie Whiteman, apart from having to get the ball out of his net, didn't really have much to do in that second half. As Jason said, he barely got his gloves on and was picking one out of his net from Emerson Royal. And to be fair to Emerson, there wasn't much to say. I mean, he marshalled the young defence in the second half, but many won't forget away from the fact that he obviously made the mistake that conceded the goal. Djed, as we discussed, on an energetic evening for him. Ashley Phillips really did nothing wrong during the night. Max Robson, a decent young prospect, the same as Tyrese Hall, a young player that's got a massive future ahead of him. Bergvall, we've not discussed a huge amount, but I think many would agree he got better and better as the game wore on. That's fair to say.
That cross, Rick.
Thank you.
That cross.
Yes. I think many will take away from that point. That cross he did make, Bergvall, is, again, an exciting prospect. And I think with Bergvall, it'll be interesting between now and the rest of pre-season, just obviously the amount of minutes he does get. And again, that will give us an emphasis in terms of how much he will be involved next season. But I think, again, the main takeaways will be the likes of the Mikey Moores, the Will Lankshears, Timo Werner. Look, to be honest here, he did exactly what he was asked to do. He got down the byline, he put a cross in. That's what he was doing last season. Another assist for him. And I think, again, at the moment, you know, it really is getting a feel for the ball at the moment. I don't think now is a time to be making on casting aspersions about what next player is going to be the next breakthrough star. We know we've got some decent players in the ranks. And again, when you look at what we've done overall in terms of this evening for the players, you know, you've had Brennan Johnson score, Will Lankshear score, Mikey Moore score, an assist for Bergvall, a goal and assist for Jed Spence. As we've mentioned, important to mention Archie Gray, the future really, really bright for him. But Ange was asked after the game in terms of his thoughts. He went, look, it's a good run out. It's good to see these young players getting an opportunity. It's a friendly game, so you worry about that competitiveness and intensity, but I thought it was there during the game. Both halves were fairly good. He was asked about the transfer window and whether he's comfortable with the speed Spurs are moving. He said, look, nothing's really changed. I'm comfortable. We've got a strategy in place about what we want to do. I'm really happy with the two lads we've brought in. Both obviously very talented, but more importantly, really ambitious. They're not here to ease their way in. They want to play, and I think that's great. They've been brought an energy to the group, and there's no doubt there'll be a couple more additions, but I'm comfortable where we are at. He was also asked about the future of Rodrigo Bentancur, and he responded about the situation around whether he'll be returning and when. He went, look, if you're referring to the Copa America, in terms of the comments that's happened, it's been dealt with. But the most important person in the whole process around the racism remark is Sonny. So he'll guide us and direct us on that. It's being dealt with, and I'm sure there'll be further actions behind the scenes. But I think at the moment with all these kind of things, it's easy to jump in and make judgments. But I also think the most important people are the ones affected. And in this case, Sonny, and will be guided by him, which I thought was really good words from Ange, to be honest here. It's not easy to have to face the media when you've been off for 2 or 3 weeks with that kind of issue and he's had to try and deal with that in the press conference. Jed Spence, again, we make that point. We'll see what happens in terms of the rest of the pre-season. He was asked about his reaction to the video of Argentina players chanting about the French national team. He went, look, only briefly, like I said, it's the people that are affected who are the best judge of where this sits. And I think, look, to be fair, Ange is great with the media. I think whilst there may be concerns around the tactical element of it in terms of the second season, whether there'll be adaptation, I don't think I've got any problem with him in the media. I think he's great the way he handles himself and talks about the football club. I think, again, the second season will tell us a lot in terms of whether Spurs are able to adapt and change. But there's still a lot of work to do. He was asked that question and said, look, we haven't achieved anything yet at Tottenham. So until we achieve something, my work is not done. And I think that's nice words to hear, right? I think that's what we all want to hear. So look, I think those are the main takeaways from the game itself. So what we are going to do, we are going to go for our final break of this show. Again, can't thank you enough for your support. Over nearly 5,000 of you are watching us live. We're joined by Richard Cracknell. We're joined by Jason McGovern. We're joined by Ricky J. Norwood returning to the set. And it is now a time, I think, just a polite reminder on Last Word on Spurs that we are battling. We are being nominated again for the FCA, the Last Word on Spurs Football Content Awards that we've been really happy to be nominated for. We are open again for those nominations. Can you help us bring a second trophy home? Can we have a double in our ranks, we hope? You can nominate us right now by going to type in Last Word on Spurs under Best Podcast in the Premier League. You can hit that QR code, and we'll hope we don't lose crackers again in Anfield for half an hour, because that was a bit of a concern on the night. And hopefully this time Ricky and Jason can help us find if he does do a runner.
Did we go to an awards night in Liverpool?
Well, we did. I don't know where you went.
Well, I seem to remember going into an Irish pub and getting chatting to some good locals, and I kind of remember getting in a cab to Anfield. I mean, I seemed to wake up in London after that.
This guy.
Was it a good night?
Wouldn't change him for the world. Don't know where he is though. I'll tell you. Honestly, what a night. Listen, we are going to cover off just two final things, guys, if we can. It's only because it's been hinted, and Jason's going to kill me now for bringing this up because he will tell me it's totally irrelevant. And the good thing is, Ange just completely shut this down straight after the game, which many will be glad to hear. There was a report in the Telegraph that Ange Postecoglou is expected to be on the shortlist for the next England manager's position. Now, interestingly, we know he's worked very closely with John McDermott in the past, who has followed Ange's career from Australia to Japan and to Scotland and now to the Premier League, and is a huge admirer of his work. I think it's important to say that in terms of the shortlist and where we are overall, for those that care about England, I think many know for me, I've always been club over country. At the moment, you've got Eddie Howe, Graham Potter, Maurizio Pochettino, and Lee Carsey amongst the front runners to replace Gareth Southgate. And Postecoglou was asked directly after the game about his thoughts on the England job. And he said, look, from my perspective in terms of England and Spurs and where I'm at right now, he said, I was having a nap in the afternoon. I have no idea. I'm the Tottenham manager. I'm determined to bring success to this football club. That's where my focus is totally. Jace, you wouldn't expect anything less than Ange to come out and say that. But is it just the nature of the crazy reporting these days that you could be linked with the England job after only being in the Premier League for 7 months? And I don't mean there's any disrespect to Ange Postecoglou, but it was an okay-ish season, but to see links to the England job, does that say anything about the media of today?
Well, it does, because he was linked with a Liverpool job after 5 months. He's not going to have the England job. Move on.
Thank you very much for that point.
No need to discuss it. He won't be the next England manager. Move on. Don't even bother about it.
No, I mean, the only reason I bring that up again is it's in the news, and it'd be weird of me maybe not to bring it up as maybe viewers and listeners.
It only comes up in the news because you keep bringing it up. Leave it. Move on.
It only come up today. Give me a chance. Ricks, I mean, is it the nature of crazy reporting these days that you are going to get links like this? I mean, at the moment, as we see, I think with Ange, fully focused on Spurs. He said there, shut it down. That's what you want That's what you want your manager to do, right? Shut it down.
Yeah, but even if he was in for it, he's got to shut it down at this point. Yeah, I'm with Jace. You got to kind of keep it moving. The amount of times that people want to create headlines and connect Tottenham to those headlines to make those headlines pop off in our fan base. I mean, come on. I mean, the guy just said there in his press conference, he's got work to do. Do you know what I mean? He's ready to do the work. It's great to hear that, but this story didn't even hit the sides with me. Do you know what I mean? I scrolled past that. I just carried on going. no interest whatsoever, and I don't think there's any truth to it whatsoever either. He's here to come and win the Premier League, not the Euros or the World Cup. All right, he's here to come and win the Premier League and bring glory to Tottenham Hotspur. That's what he's here to do.
Yeah, no, I love that. And look, I mean, after the game again, just to emphasise Jason's point again, how crazy these links are. He was asked, like, did the England link show you, Cracks, that you are going in the right direction? He went, look, I reckon by the end of it, there'll be 100 of them. I'm in the top 100. Thank you. That's decent. And he was then asked, would the job interest in one day? This is what I mean about the media in the summer with what you find is that, look, it's 5 years ago I was in Japan. Now I'm in the Premier League. Who knows where I'll be in 5 years? I could be back in Japan. I could be on the beach somewhere. Hopefully it's not something that enters my mind. I'm the Tottenham manager. I'm determined to bring success to the football club. Nothing else is on my radar except for that. So there's nothing more you can say, Cracks, in terms of shutting that down, right? I know Jason wants me to move on, but I'll give you your point and let you say your words on it, Cracks. Anything
Thanks,
to add
Ricky. Yeah, I'd like to add something on that. As earlier, here's Robbie Keane's book, okay, which I'm finding far more interesting than this thing of Ange and the England link. People will be more interested in just taking a little look at Robbie Keane's boot, which is signed on the toe there. Look, I can't quite get used to old people and technology. Look, signed, got a little RK on the tongue. He wore that versus Wolves away, last game of the season, many, many years ago. And I've got it. So I hope that's answered your question
that
on
absolutely
job.
Summed it up for me perfectly. And we're going to end it on, again, you can say it's a nice story, a sad story, a good story to come for this man, his career. Because I know, again, he's a fan's favourite around the club. And that is that Jermain Defoe announced he will be leaving his coaching role at Spurs to focus on the next stage of his career. Obviously, he retired in professional football back in March 2022. Defoe brought an end to his time at Spurs in a real heartfelt statement, which I can feel Jason's laughing at me in the background if I'm even going to read this out. He went, look,
has he been linked to the England job then?
No. He said, for the past since I've thoroughly enjoyed my coaching time at Spurs. Now I leave this incredible club, and I want to say thank you to all the amazing people in the building who have helped me learn and grow. It's been a pleasure to achieve so much at Spurs, including reaching my UEFA A coaching status, which was always an ambition of mine following my playing career. Spurs will always hold a special place in my heart, and the fans already know how much they mean to me. However, now is the right time for me to move on and shape the rest of my coaching and managerial career. Nevertheless, I'll always be forever thankful for my time at Spurs fondly. All great journeys eventually come to an end. I wish everyone at the club nothing but the best for the coming season in the future. Until next time. So, look, again, I think we're all massive fans of Jermain Defoe. Rick, I'm sure you love Jermain, right, Rick?
Love Jermain, mate. Love Jermain. East London boy. Do you know what I mean? He was another one that worked to get to where he went to. You know, you should speak to Darren Hartman about Jermain. I'm sure they used to go to school together and stuff, so I'm sure he's got a couple of stories about him. But one of the things that he always told me is that Jermain loved scoring goals. He was obsessed with scoring goals, and luckily as a Tottenham fan, we got to see that. Most exciting signing, I remember being in with Darren in a van, and we was touring the show when it came on the radio, TalkSport, that we'd signed Jermain Defoe, and we went mental, and we were by the embankment, and we were shaking this van that's got like set in it and stuff in the back. We're shaking this van going, come on, Jermain signed for us. So, you know, it's so lovely that he's come back and, begun curating his coaching career at Tottenham. He's always fantastic to see him in and around the club. He's Tottenham through and through. He done a great interview with Simon Jordan on YouTube. Check it out. That's right. And I wish him all the best, man. I wish him all the best. Hopefully this means that there's a coaching role somewhere around for him. Hopefully it's close for him. That's why he's left, so he can go and pursue that. So I wish him all the luck in the world. Go get him, Jem.
Love that. Fantastic. Look, we're going to close it on that point. You can see Jason's burner account is here. Ricky's reading the old effing thing out. Why? It definitely is Jason in the background of that burner account. I just want to say at that point, massive thank you, Jason. Very quickly, I'm sure you'll wish Jermain all the very best, right, in his managerial future, whatever that may be.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, he was always one of my favourite players from when we signed him. So, absolutely. I mean, you'd have never looked at Jermain when he was playing and thought he would be the one going down the coaching and possible management path, would he? I mean, you wouldn't have seen that. But fantastic to see him go and do that. And absolutely. I mean, you and Lee were lucky enough to go and meet him
Yes, we were.
Was it a couple of years ago or
The training grounds.
Whatever,
He was great. He was great.
Thing. So,
Yeah,
and you just think, he came to Tottenham, he left, he came back to Tottenham, he left, he's come back as a coach. There's something about Tottenham and him that's for sure.
You're not saying it'd be in October, Jace, will you? Not that early. Cracks. We thought he might be coming.
I think as well. I think all those even when he was a player, I think Kane's finishing took a lot from Jermain Defoe. All the type of thing. You didn't see Kane passes. It would put your foot through it into the bottom corner, wasn't it? Which is exactly what Lancashire did tonight. It wasn't just pushed into the bottom; it was like driven into that bottom corner. And I think that's kind of the Jermain Defoe, carry on line, or whatever the word is, the legacy of Jermain Defoe. That's the type of finish you got to hit.
Amen. I'm sure, Cracks, as well, you reckon those words. Jermain, whatever happens, we wish him all the best, right?
Absolutely. And I hope he has a long, prosperous career in management and coaching, which is what he burns to do. If it doesn't work out, Jermain, I have a 25-night theatre tour lined up for you to talk about your time at Tottenham. You do have my number because we did meet a little while ago. We bumped into each other and I was more than keen to try to get him to come and talk about Spurs and meet Spurs fans. You have my number. I have a 25-night theatre tour lined up and the King's English pounds waiting to put into your hand. Thank you very much. But coaching and managing first.
Look at that. You won't get a better direct proposal than that from Richard Cracknell, who says it ever eloquently like that for you. Listen, we wish Jermain all the very, very best, but the night does belong to the Spurs youth. Great start to pre-season, a 5-1 win over Hearts. It was a night which many saw the future is bright and lily white. I want to say a massive thank you to the wonderful Ricky J. Norwood. Ricks, thank you so much as always, my man. You'll be back for us throughout pre-season and what's to come. Ricks, anything you want to tell us at the moment? Anything exciting, or is it all hush, hush, hush?
I'm just keeping busy, boys. I'm just keeping busy. I was telling Cracks a little story about an audition I had last week or the week before now. But there's been a couple back-to-back and, I'm in London town and keeping busy. So when there's something to say, as always, I'll let you know. But I've got to send a big shout out to all of those Hearts fans and one in particular called Ross, who actually looked after me when I was doing the Princess Switch movies up in Scotland. He was one of the drivers and every time that I jumped in a car with him, he used to talk to me about Dave Mackay and the connection between Hearts and Spurs. And so he's always had a soft spot for Spurs as well. So we used to chat about football all the time. And during that game tonight and during the dedication to Dave Mackay as well, it was like I was thinking of Ross. So I want to send big shout out and big love out to Ross up there in Scotland. And we're back. We're back. So let's go.
Back. Mate, thank you so much, Ricks. You're an absolute star. Jace, I won't ask you about your auditions. You'll tell us in due course what's happening. I'm sure you'll let us know, right?
Absolutely.
Any news, you'll let us know.
And actually, just as Rick says, I had a friend, I guarantee was there tonight, Gary McCulloch. He comes down from Edinburgh for every home game, regardless of what time.
Well, I mean, that commitment's insane, isn't it? That
and
commitment, unbelievable.
And he probably makes 15 of the 20 or 19 away games type of thing as well. So, it must be nice for somebody like that to just be able to walk 10 minutes down the road and finally see Tottenham there. So I hope you enjoyed it tonight, mate, and look forward to seeing you in the new season.
Love that, Jace. Thank you so much, mate. And again, Jace, thank you so much. Jace will be back for us throughout pre-season. And just to answer again these questions that always come in, no, Jason will not be part of the transfer shows. we might squeeze him on deadline day because Jason loves when it shuts. So Jason will announce the countdown and give you the 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yep,
he will slam it shut before you. Put it through the window for you if you want him to. Jason, we love you, mate. Thank you so much.
I'll slam the lid on Fabrizio Romano before that.
Never change. We love you. We do. Cracks, we're going to close it with you, mate. A month away. I bet it feels like you've never been away. Does it after this month?
It's great to be back. And Ricky, good luck with them. The auditions that you're going for. The role of Hulk Hogan, the life story, I think is yours, mate. I mean, you'll make a great Hulk Hogan. Yeah, there we go. Look, the Hulkamaniac. But listen, lovely, nice to see.
More like Rickamania. Come on, Rickamania.
Ric Flair.
That would catch on. I love that. I love that.
Nice to see some new and old names coming down the mentions at the side there as well.
Yeah,
so
much.
It's just good to see some familiar names back down there and getting involved in the show, because, you know, one on the screen now, King Hoddle, always comes in and it's brilliant. There's plenty of King Hoddles on the show.
He must be sitting next to Lee McQueen, though, mustn't he, with a message like that?
We are winning a lot. There's McQueen's burner account. That's actually McQueen, isn't it? Yeah. All these people we think are regulars are actually just all our burner accounts in the comments, isn't they? But it is great to see everybody back, and 5,000 people tuning in. Rick, testament to you and what you've built with the show and what everybody puts in. So, yeah, looking forward to a season of promise, and let's see how that goes. And you've got me hosting as well for a couple of shows.
I know. When you on holiday, Rick?
Rick's off to Love Island. He's going in.
I wish it was bloody Love Island. Shouldn't have said that out loud.
That's staying there.
So do I.
Me and Jace are off to Canvey Island.
Next week, I'm there for 2 weeks. We've got a wedding in Cyprus. I mean, I will say again, listen, I love my family, but at the moment, with 2 kids under 4, I don't think we'll touch the sunbed much. I think you boys will touch the sunbed more than I will in the next 10 years of my lifetime. But
I'd love to go somewhere hot, Rick.
You don't go there enough, do you, Cracks? You don't see it enough.
Be lovely.
I have to say again, I'm really lucky to be blessed by what you see now. 3 people that have been part of this for the last 6, 7, 8 years. Before this even went on to a YouTube platform, we were on audio, which I know we can't believe. Jason was with me, bless him, from the start, which goes back about 8 years now. So I've got to say, there's tremendous friendships here and loyalty and love that I've got for these boys. And again, I'm so lucky that I say venture away in the summer, but go away in the summer. And I know we're in safe hands. So again, I want to say a massive thank you to these wonderful people you see before Jason's going to now come and batter me. What are you going to say, Jace? Go on. I know him.
What about friendships? I can't bloody stand the sight. Every time I get a message from you, I think,
I know.
Not again.
Not again. He thought, the thing is, Jason thought he had the night off earlier. I said, Jace, good news and bad news. The bad news is you haven't got a night off. The good news is you are going to see Crackers and Rick. So sorry, mate, you're back. And we have made a trade-off.
You know, Jason goes on about the Biffa bin. I'm convinced he's that Grouch from Sesame Street. You know the umpy Muppet that lived in the bin. Jason's like him. He lives in a Biffa bin, doesn't he? He flicks the lid off, moans about the length of the show, moans about the transfer window, and goes back in the bin.
Hey, look, we've done an hour and 46 about a pre-season friendly. He told me it'd only be half hour.
I said to Jason, this will be short, sharp, done in an hour. Listen, for our own sanity, we are going to close it there. I want to say a massive thank you to the wonderful Richard Cracknell, to the brilliant Ricky J. North, to the superb Jason McGovern as we make our exit for the 15th time tonight. Thank you so much for all your support. We'll be back with you very, very soon. From us all, keep safe, keep well, sending you loads of love for the love. And as always, come on, you mighty Spurs.
Come on!